Okay, I've got 6 o'clock. So I think we'll get started so that we can stay on track. Good evening, and thanks for joining us this evening for our Accessing Capital webinar. My name is Sandy Ratliff, and I am with Virginia Community Capital. I serve as VP of Community Innovation Services. And if you're not familiar with Virginia Community Capital, we are a community development financial institution created in 2006, providing lending, investing, and community innovation services in Virginia, especially in historically excluded markets and regions. At this workshop, you're going to hear about some of the innovative products and services that we offer to small businesses and nonprofits across Virginia. Now, this webinar is being recorded for training and educational purposes, and we do have everyone muted in an effort to keep the webinar flowing. However, this is an educational and a workshop, so we want to hear from you. So if you have a question for our presenters, if you will please post those in the Q&A section, we will address those during and after this session. Now, today's session will focus on VCC's newest programs, our Food Access Financing and our Economic Equity Fund. These can offer some new opportunities for businesses that are growing within rural Virginia. Our presenters this evening are Sarah Santa Cruz. Sarah is our program coordinator of VCC's advisory services, which she has the pleasure of working with me every day. And Janelle Sholio. She is VCC's Economic Equity Loan Officer, and they will provide details of the financing opportunities that each of these programs has to offer. So, Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you, and please don't forget that if you have a question to post those in our Q&A section. So, Sarah, it's all yours.
Thank you, Sandy, and welcome everybody. I'm happy to be here. And Janelle and I have our contact information ready for you at the end of the slides as well. All right, so to get started with VCC, for those of you who are not familiar with us, our mission is to create equitable access to capital by developing community partnerships and innovative tools that tackle systemic challenges and advance promising opportunities. Our vision is that all people and places have the capital and ecosystem partners needed to realize prosperous futures. So these are kind of the two main things that underpin all of the work that we do across the state and beyond. VCC offers many products and services. So we have a lending arm, an advisory services arm, and investing. Under lending, we have a few focus areas. We have real estate, affordable housing, small business, healthy food, and clean energy. And our advisory services include collaborative leadership, business development, and other technical assistance. And for investing, we offer deposits, grants, stock, and program-related investments. Since VCC's inception in 2006, we've been around for a while. We started initially with an investment from Governor Mark Warner, and we have had a $2.19 billion impact since our inception. So if you look down below, it breaks out how that impact was achieved. So 1,300 projects financed, over 14,000 jobs created or maintained, 12,300 housing units financed, almost 34,000 hours of technical assistance. We're probably there now at this point in 2023. 37 food access loans, 31 health-related loans, and over 18,000 megawatts of solar energy. Our guiding principles are partnership, innovation, and expertise. So under partnership, we are the first choice for collaborative leadership. Under innovation, the first choice for innovative capital. And for expertise, we like to be the go-to resource for the community. And all of those three guiding principles together help us achieve our impact. Our community programs focus on fresh food access, affordable housing, economic equity, job creation, capital deployment, and capacity building. So those numbers down below just reiterate some of the stats I showed in the previous slide, but you can see where we work. So all across Virginia and beyond. So we do explore opportunities outside of the state as well. All right, now I will get started with the Virginia Fresh Food Loan Fund. So fresh food and food access programming has been really important to VCC for over a decade now. Not only do we offer the Virginia Fresh Food Loan Fund, but VCC is involved with the Virginia Food Access Coalition and also with the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund, which is a state-seeded grant program to increase equitable food access. So we'll dive into that in a moment. But overall, the mission of the Fresh Food Loan Fund is to increase access to healthy food in low-access communities by providing technical and financial resources that make access to expertise and capital more equitable and sustainable. It's a $10 million revolving loan fund to improve food security in Virginia's urban and rural communities. And food insecurity looks different in those places. So we really try to make sure that we are working with community members to build out these projects from the ground up. The loan fund aims to increase access to healthy food by strengthening food-based businesses along the food system value chain, consequently building a more resilient local food economy. So we do focus as a financial institution on the local food economy and sort of tracking that dollar. Where does the food money come into the community and where is it leaving? So where is there like maybe an opportunity for us to harness and keep some of that money that is leaving the community in the community, putting it back into the hands of producers, back into the hands of retailers and consumers alike. A little history here. So like I said, this program's been around for a little over a decade. In 2013, the Fresh Food Loan Fund was established as a $10 million revolving loan fund to improve healthy food access by financing healthy corner stores and larger food retailers. In 2015, it was awarded its first Healthy Food Financing Initiative, or HFFI, grant from the U.S. Department of Treasury to begin providing technical assistance along with lending capital to healthy food retailers. So that is a retail-specific grant program. In 2018, VCC engaged the Food Trust to assess the food financing landscape of Virginia. The final report recommended VCC pivot the Fresh Food Loan Fund financing strategy to more of a systems thinking perspective that considers financial and technical resources needed for food projects across the entire food ecosystem. From 2020 to 2021, the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund, or VFAIF program, was enacted, and there was $3 million allocated for catalyzing healthy food retail investment in low-income, low-access communities across Virginia. The program guidelines were shaped by the Equitable Food-Oriented Development Framework, or EFOD, which made Virginia the very first state-funded program in the whole country to align with EFOD. And if you have specific questions about VFAIF, don't hesitate to reach out to me or put a question in the chat or Q&A. Prior to my time at VCC, I was the manager of the VFAIF program at the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and I love to hype it up because it's really an excellent program. In 2021, VCC won the contract to be the CDFI selected for providing additional technical assistance to VFAIF program and grant awardees. And in 2023, VCC becomes a key partner with the USDA Regional Food Business Centers, which will provide catalytic grants and technical assistance up to $100,000 to food and farm businesses. And this is really exciting for us. This is brand new. It's hot off the press. USDA allocated funding for 12 centers across the entire country, all split up into different regions, and VCC has been asked to be part of this. So we're excited to see what this looks like and to see how far we can make this money stretch. All right, so food system development strategies. Food work is not an easy task. It very much requires systems thinking and players from all different parts of the food system value chain. So number one here, improve capital access to food businesses by offering low rate financing and creative capital tools such as credit enhancement. So these credit enhancements, you might hear the terms loan loss reserve or loan guarantees. Number two, provide project-based technical assistance such as feasibility studies, energy audits, and catalytic grants for business development. Three, provide financial and technical resources to grant applicants and awardees of the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund. Four, support ecosystem development of local food economies with place-based investment strategies. And number five, advise federal and state food system policies as a member of different food system advocacy coalitions. So building economic resiliency of local food systems often requires funding stepping stones, such as, let's see. That's a little wonky. All right, number one, pre-development technical assistance to develop financial literacy. So we often have folks come to us who say, I'm really interested in starting this food business, or I need help connecting the dots between a producer and a retailer. How can you help me do that? So that's where VCC steps in to provide that technical assistance as a form of food systems expertise and overall financial literacy. So we do partner with the Small Business Development Center, and we also outsource to other technical assistance partners who can help with financial literacy. And food systems financing is very niche. So, for example, we have one of our great pals and lenders on the call, Cindy Green, who works with a lot of our food system loans that we get through VCC. And our lenders and our other TA providers are trained to point you to the right resources to get help with that financial literacy. Then we move on to stipends or salary to community residents for their time and insight in advising food-based projects. So I said in the beginning of this presentation that we really aim to work with communities to build programming from the ground up. And a way to do this is to engage community residents for their time and their expertise on the community they're hoping to change, which is their community and they know it best. By providing some sort of incentive so that we're not asking community members to work for free, but we're switching the narrative and saying, we recognize that you have valuable input here and we're willing to pay for it. The next arrows here point to catalytic grants to jumpstart project activity. So once we have that pre-development technical assistance and financial literacy and foundational financial documentation in place, and we've worked out which community residents are going to support the project and be paid for their time to do so, then we can start to look at what catalytic grants are available to get this going. So my colleague Lauren says it well. She says, let's find all the free money first and exhaust those resources before we jump to financing. And then the 4 arrows down here speak to creative capital stacks with credit and collateral enhancements. So maybe we found some grants and now there's enough resources in the tank to go after some more financing. Then that's where we move into these creative capital stacks, which can often include in-kind donations, grant funding from different programs, funding from foundations, financing from VCC or another bank. And at the bottom, capacity and expertise within funding organizations to invest in lasting relationships that build trust. So we know that working across, as a CDFI, working across the landscapes of those who have been historically marginalized and left out of the finance system, that projects only move forward at the speed of trust. So we look for organizations that can step in to help foster that and also assist with the sustainability of a project, because we are not interested in kind of one-off capital infusions and then we back away. We're really interested in how sustainability can be achieved so that the project benefits the community for generations. All right, so some fun examples here of how all of those pieces come into play. So you'll see on the left here, we've got Virginia Community Capital, the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, or VDACS, Virginia Fresh Match, and then some additional grants from healthcare foundations, municipal funds, et cetera. And all of that points to a big dollar sign. So there was funding infused into these projects here on the right. We have St. Paul's Community Development Corporation, Youth Earn and Learn, Jobs for Kids, the Park Avenue Market, and Food Pharmacy. So now I'm going to explain to you how all of these things are related. So years ago, St. Paul's Community Development Corporation started working on the Norfolk food ecosystem. So they were set on systems thinking and said, we need to make change. And the only way to do this is to engage players, not only from different industries, but from different points along the food system value chain, and to really make sure that the programming they were building was informed by the community. So the Community Development Corporation reached out, worked with VCC on technical assistance, and then went to VDACS for some funding from the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund grant opportunity. Now, at the same time they came to VDACS for the grant opportunity, Youth Earn and Learn did the same thing. And Youth Earn and Learn is an excellent organization, also based in Norfolk. And they focus on giving kids something to do in downtime, so after school. And there are training programs where kids learn about workforce development and innovations in the workforce by doing actual work, handling the money, and seeing change in their communities. So these two organizations both had excellent grant applications and received funding in that first round of the Food Access Investment Fund. They since partnered and have gone on to further advance what's going on in their communities in terms of food access. So St. Paul's Community Development Corporation began working with Park Avenue Market, which is a small format grocery store that accepts Virginia Fresh Match, which is sort of like a buddy for SNAP EBT benefits. And Virginia Fresh Match provides a dollar for dollar match. So if you have a SNAP/EBT card, you come into Park Avenue Market and you buy $10 in produce, you immediately get an additional $10 to spend on fresh fruits or vegetables while you're there. So St. Paul's Community Development is now connected to Youth Earn and Learn and Park Avenue Market. And together, Youth Earn and Learn and St. Paul's were able to get extra grant funding to create a food pharmacy program. This came through healthcare foundations and some other funding. And so they now can distribute fresh produce by prescription to those in need in their communities. So this is just a great example of, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of great minds at the table, and a lot of technical assistance to navigate all of the systems that are in place to essentially make it really hard to do this. But VCC has positioned itself with many excellent partners and TA providers who can help navigate the process to create something really excellent alongside the folks in Norfolk who now have this Norfolk food ecosystem, and they're starting to realize that this can be achievable and other grant funding is pouring in. So you can see here that was pre-development technical assistance, community residents hired for expertise, catalytic grants awarded, and creative capital stacks with credit and collateral enhancements. So all of those pieces working together. And here are some photos. So you can see on the left, St. Paul's Community Development Corporation created the Norfolk food ecosystem in Norfolk, Virginia, and they've got their food distribution happening. And on the right is Park Avenue Market. It was originally more so kind of like just a corner shop with, processed food and quick grab and go items. And then they expanded and now they offer fresh meat and fresh produce as well. The Youth Earn and Learn Market here is pictured on the left. So you can see the kids are actually out there. They sell snacks after school. They have a farmer's market stand that they set up as well. They also are part of Virginia Fresh Match and accept SNAP and EBT. And on the right, it's the table of the Norfolk Food Ecosystems Food Pharmacy Program that collaborates with Youth Earn and Learn. So a lot of excellent partnerships happening here. Before I move on to opportunity number 2, anything in the chat, Sandy?
I just put it up there and ask if anyone has any questions to please post those and let us know in the Q&A section. So I don't see anything right now, but hopefully they are going to be posting those in there for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so opportunity 2 here, a technical assistance grant. So this is something else that we provide. It's a grant to pay for a feasibility study to determine if a food hub expansion would be financially stable for LEAP, which is a local environmental agriculture project in Roanoke. The capital stack included 40% from the Virginia Fresh Food Loan Fund TA program, 40% from a regional foundation, and then 20% as a food hub applicant. The technical assistance advised how to design a pitch deck to present to the regional foundation to get a match for the funding they were seeking. Case study 3, this is Donia Fair Grocery Store in Harrisonburg, and this is so dear to my heart. These folks are amazing. So Donia Fair had heard about the Virginia Food Access Investment Fund, I believe through the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And they reached out and had some questions because they needed a new cooler and they needed to repair an existing cooler at their small grocery store that served the Latinx community. The community wanted more fresh foods and more access to local items like local dairy. And so Fernanda, one of the owners of Donia Fair, reached out to us and she expressed that she was nervous to apply for funding because she had never applied for a grant before. So we worked within those equitable food-oriented development framework guidelines and said, all right, we understand that the majority of grant opportunities out there are really scary to apply for. I mean, if you've ever applied for state or federal funding, it's a daunting process, and a lot of organizations have staff members who are experts in this to do it. But smaller grocery stores and smaller businesses don't have that luxury. So we were able to get our documents translated into Spanish for Fernanda, and we went to her store multiple times and worked with her to help craft her grant application to truly reflect what she needed. In the end, she was awarded a Catalytic Food Access Investment Fund grant from VDAX, along with the technical assistance that I just mentioned. Case study 4 is for a rural grocery store. And this project was to purchase new energy-efficient equipment to expand produce, meats, and dairy offerings and save on utility expenses. VCC was able to offer the borrower a below-market rate Healthy Food Financing Initiative, or HFFI rate, through rate buy-down funds. And additionally, VCC's loan loss reserve enabled a 100% advance on the new equipment. The normal advance is 75%, and that number can be prohibitive. So the capital stack on this was a little bit crazy. We kind of pulled all the levers to make it work. And again, my colleague Cindy Green could get more into the details on this one. But they were able to utilize a VFAIF grant, an SBA, which is a Small Business Administration 504 loan, a VCC equipment loan, a VCC commercial real estate loan, and they utilized Virginia Fresh Match. For technical assistance, VCC connected the grocery store owners to a regional foundation for exploring impact investment and other methods of funding. So this rural grocery store is really amazing. They are the only grocery store within 3 different counties. So it's an area of high food insecurity. So by them coming in and saying, we want to expand, we want to be more efficient, we want to carry more local produce and dairy and other products, were here for the community. They provided multiple letters of support from community members. They hire locally. It was just one of those deals where you look at it and you say, wow, this is high impact. So VCC is happy to be able to work with this market, and we still have a wonderful relationship with them. Case study number 5, a community advised food fund. And this is a bit newer, and we're excited to delve into this. So we're providing thought partnership with a community foundation to create a sustainable community advised food fund and impact investing strategies to deploy capital within a local food economy. And this is really the realm of place-based consulting. So Virginia Community Capital Social Enterprises is our parent company. Within that, we have VCC Bank, the VCC Loan Fund, and Locus, which is our place-based consulting / impact investing arm. So we have been able to work with Locus on this project in particular. So we're helping to design stakeholder engagement to understand the role that impact investment capital will likely play in fostering a wealth-building local food economy. We're helping to advise on an inclusive governance structure with appropriate technical assistance to ensure equitable decision-making and fund allocation, and exploring alternative food fund structures that attract institutional investing partners to extend the impact and sustainability of the food fund. So again, you can see all of those key steps here. From the very beginning, we're working on technical assistance to the very end, where we are trying to ensure that once VCC steps away, there is a well-oiled machine set up and that it's set up for sustainability. All right, so that was it for my part on the Virginia Fresh Food Loan Fund and our food access programming. So now I will turn it over to my colleague, Janelle.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to ask you to continue to guide the slides for me today, because I did access the webinar through a different technical means because I was having some of my own technical assistance needs here with my internet. So I apologize if I start to break up a little bit. So I'm here today to talk to you about the Economic Equity Loan Fund. This was a fund that was started a few years back, really to help support our BIPOC community, our Black, Indigenous people of color, and our women-owned businesses. It started with a $10 million loan fund that VCC was awarded to kind of help provide low-cost funding to our BIPOC community and our women-owned businesses who were disproportionately affected by the economic impact of the pandemic. The one thing I like about what we do here at VCC is when we see a need for something within our clients or even within a new area of business, we tend to make it part of our mission to ensure that we continue that. So we were granted this loan fund, and we were quickly able to deploy these funds out to the community and those in need, and realize that there was still a need there. So we actually have made part of our small business lending really focused around the Economic Equity Fund itself. And we've kind of tweaked some of our lending practices to really align with that. And we've put a lot of our money where our mouth is by ensuring that even though we were able to deploy these funds relatively quickly, we kept the fund going ourselves. So that's something that's pretty exciting. A lot of the eligibility uses for this can be some of the typical basic things you'll see for business needs, such as business acquisition, debt refinancing. That's a big one. A lot of our historically underserved have received access to capital, but it's through proprietary lending, or they have just astronomical interest rates and payments that they really just can't afford. We do a lot of debt restructuring and refinancing to help obtain them into a more reasonable payment at a much more realistic interest rate, if you will. Some other things that you can use this fund for is equipment financing, owner-occupied real estate. It can't be used for investment real estate. It needs to be your owner-occupied real estate. Working capital and lines of credit. In order to be eligible for this particular fund, the business does have to be in operations and creating revenues for a minimum of 18 months. I've had a couple of instances where people have established their business but not started generating revenues yet. We really are looking for in operation and generating revenues for a minimum of 18 months. So that's a little bit about the Economic Equity Loan Fund. I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper. If we can go to the next slide, one of the things we'll talk about is how is this fund really different and what does it do? The way I like to explain it is this fund allows for a little bit more leniency on, leniency is kind of a bad word, but a little bit better structured way of getting access to capital from a lender's perspective. So where we would normally require under traditional banking collateral to fully secure the loan with a cash injection, very similar to like what we were talking about with the food fund. There's ways for this program to help those who maybe don't have full collateralization for the loan that they're asking for. So some examples of typical loan to value. So when I say full collateralization, we're talking about loan to value. So if you were to buy a new piece of equipment, typically we're only going to loan you 75% of the value of that equipment. You've got to have a $25,000 cash injection. And used equipment, 50%. CRE, that's commercial real estate. So those owner occupied buildings, anywhere from 75 to 85%. And I don't need to read all the percentages for you. You can see them there. But this is your typical loan to values of what a standard bank, if you will, would potentially loan against. Well, when you take into consideration potentially buying a commercial real estate, you're going to have some closing costs associated with that. Appraisals, environmental costs, it can get pretty expensive. And where this fund can come into play is to help those that maybe don't have the full cash injection that's typically required to obtain this type of lending, to still have the ability and the access to potentially gain lending, even though they don't have that full cash injection. I'd like to give you a little bit of examples of that on the next slide. When I'm talking about a cash injection, normally we were able to finance this dump truck, for example. The purchase price of this was $270,000. Normally, you're going to have a minimum cash injection into this. Well, the individual didn't necessarily have the full funds, but they needed access to this vehicle to either grow their business or to replace. I wasn't the loan officer on this particular one, so I can't recall if this one was to replace a damaged truck or to grow it. But they didn't have the full cash injection to be able to purchase this truck. Earlier, we mentioned loan loss reserve. Loan loss reserve is part of the program under the Economic Equity Loan Fund that allows us the ability to secure that collateral with this particular fund, if you will, which will mitigate or offset the fact that you don't have enough cash injection. So without loan loss reserve on this particular one, a $270,000 purchase, the borrower would typically have to invest $135,000 to purchase this truck. What if you don't have it? Then you don't qualify for the loan and you're denied. Not under this particular fund if you qualify. We could potentially look at doing a loan loss reserve. Now, in the past, what we've done is whatever percentage you needed to offset that, we would utilize our loan loss reserve to where the borrower only had to inject $27,000 to get the truck. They still have to pay the full price of the truck. It doesn't reduce the price of the truck down, but it reduces our risk from a lender by our loan to value being lower, if that makes any sense. So the loan amount that this particular individual received was $243,000. They injected the $27,000 and they were still able to retain the loan for the vehicle to expand their business. We utilize loan loss reserves a little bit differently today, but it's the same concept where if you don't have the cash injection necessary to fall underneath traditional lending guidelines, we have a means of potentially helping to offset that. So another example, if we can go to the next slide, is when you're looking to purchase real estate. This daycare facility ended up, I believe this one was in a a childcare desert. So it was real important that they were able to get the property here and be able to sustain. The purchase price of this building was $195,000. Without access to the Economic Equity Loan Fund, this borrower would have had to invest $48,000 in order to obtain this loan and purchase this building. They didn't have that access to cash on hand to be able to do it. So we were able to tie in some loan loss reserves, reducing the amount that the borrower had to come to the table with. Again, it doesn't reduce the amount of the loan. They still have to pay the same purchase price of $195,000. It just reduced the amount of money they had to come to the table. So they were able to inject $19,500. We used 10% for loan loss reserve. So they obtained a loan for $175,500 and was still able to purchase the building. So kind of the main idea behind it is there's different tools that we have available to us under this fund that allows us some unique underwriting and packaging of our product to help each individual based upon the situation. So it's kind of a customizational package, if you will. The next slide really talks about application package. What's important? We talked about TA assistance a lot in the access to healthy food section. That's another big proponent of the Economic Equity Loan Fund. The fund itself is very comparable to the food in that not only do we offer access to affordable capital for our borrowers, but we also offer some technical assistance to help individuals get to the point to where they can obtain lending. Sometimes we are great at what we do, but we don't necessarily understand the financial piece of it. So that financial literacy comes into play. Some of the application package requirements that you should be prepared for if you need to apply for a loan are listed here. Some of it's pretty standard and going to be looked at no matter what institution you go to. But for this particular loan fund, we're looking for a breakdown of the use of funds. What are you going to use the loan for? Are we going to be purchasing equipment? Are you expanding? Do you need operating capital? We're going to look at the last 3 years of your business tax returns. Most recent interim financials. That's going to be your P&L and your balance sheet, your profit and loss and your balance sheet. And oftentimes, if applicable, it's going to include your AR and your AP. That's your account receivable and your account payable aging report. 2 years projections. That's the biggest one that stumps people up. We've got some great connections with some partners within the community that can help people who have really no idea where to get started with creating projections or business plans or things of that nature. So we have full TA assistance to help you to get these different items put together so that you can be prepared to apply for a loan in hopes of attaining it. Letter of intent, that could be particularly like a buyer's order, some people may call it. Or if you're looking to purchase a building, a purchase agreement would be another one that it may be titled, depending on what it is you're looking to do with the funds. Personal financial statement for all guarantors, personal tax returns. Yes, your personal tax returns and your personal credit does get looked at when you're doing business lending. Authorization to pull credit for all your guarantors and a business plan. Business plan is really for your new businesses on startups. We will look at assisting a startup, but not under the Economic Equity Loan Funds. That new business kind of in parentheses can get a little bit confusing because if you recall, we mentioned you have to be in business with funds for at least 18 months. So that's another topic of conversation. But overall, this particular fund is really geared towards ensuring that our BIPOC community and our women-owned businesses have access to capital. And there's some other great unique things within this fund, such as how we look at credit. So one last thing I want to point out before I go to the last slide, which gives some of our contact information, is one of the other things that I have seen in the past. Borrowers are nervous to reach out to us and they hesitate because maybe they've had a decline in the past or they've had a little blurb in their credit. the other aspect of this fund is that there is some, I mentioned initially, some leniency, if you will, on the underwriting process. We understand that things happen, and we don't necessarily have a minimum credit score per se under the Economic Equity Loan Fund. We look at the whole package. We're really more concerned about how you've maintained your credit, what you've done. So there's a little bit more detailed of a conversation that you can have one-on-one with your loan officer. But it's a great opportunity to speak with somebody, even if you've had some discrepancies, or not discrepancies, but derogatory marks on your credit in the past. There's ways around potentially helping you to get to a point where you're quote unquote lendable. So the last page has my contact information. My counterpart is Chandra. She wasn't able to join us today, but feel free to, if you do have any questions, my contact information is there. And the next slide, I believe, has Sarah's. Any questions so far on the Economic Equity Loan Fund before I turn it back over to Sarah?
I don't see anything at this time. Please, if you've got questions, please let us know. Janelle, I do want to know, what are some of the things, a couple of the top 2 or 3 things that throws people off when they are seeking a capital that they should really be prepared for before they pick up the phone and call you?
Know a little bit about what your financials say. A lot of times people don't understand the cash flow aspect of it. Look at your taxes and know a little bit about what they mean. A lot of times people don't realize what their taxes say. So understanding what your taxes are relaying to people. And the biggest thing that throws people off is the projections one, and building a business plan. Those are the 2 that I think I was on the phone with a client today for about 2 hours, helping her to perfect her projections. So projections and business plans and the tax returns, and understanding what is required on those. And the SBDC is a great place to go to for as an informational source for that. Or if you're in the Hampton Roads area, the Hive. But those are the 3 things that I think you should really understand before you get in front of a loan officer, and what it says about you and your business.
Great. Sarah, anything you want to add?
Let me get to the last couple of slides here. So
Okay.
I do want to make it known that affordable housing is a huge part of VCC's portfolio and mission. So VCC's Affordable Housing Loan Fund supports the development of multifamily affordable housing in the Richmond region. It combines low-cost debt from investors with grant funding, and funds can go to support construction, acquisition, and pre-development costs, similar to VCC's historic lending. 60,000 cost-burden renter households in the Richmond region exist, and then 20,000 is the deficit of affordable homes for very low-income renters. So we're all seeing this ramp up again as we get into summer months, where there's just nothing available, and VCC is really working with partners to try to find some creative solutions to the affordable housing challenges that we're facing, not just in Richmond, but across the entire state of Virginia. So we do have an in-house expert, and that's Mr. Ernie Maddie. So here's his contact information. And Ernie would love to talk to you about all things affordable housing and answer your questions. And we are looking to do another webinar series that focuses on affordable housing later in the year. So stay tuned for that. And we will have Ernie presenting at one of those series for you.
Thank you. I still don't see any questions. So I take it that you have answered all the questions that folks had before and during the session, which is great. I will note that I plan to email the slides that were presented this evening along with their contact information so that you can have it, and also some additional materials that you can share with other small business owners within your network. Also, we, as I mentioned earlier, we are recording this session and we will have it available online, and I can send you that link, and we encourage you to use that also as a resource, but please share that with others that can provide value. That's what we're doing this for, is to allow folks to access this capital, and hopefully we can help Virginia grow and do that together. As Sarah mentioned, our plans are to do this again in late September, and we'll be having Ernie present that on affordable housing and hopefully a few other guests. So if you have any questions, please let us know. But thanks again for joining us today. And if you have a question, please don't hesitate to contact any of the team at Virginia Community Capital. If you've worked with us at all, you know that we're all passionate. We seem to all have servant hearts, which is what we love to do, and help Virginia's small businesses and our communities grow. So we want to be your partner in economic, community, and small business development so we can do more together, and that's what we want to do. So thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again soon at another session. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.